Hey guys, it's Alexandra. Today I'm going to be talking with Megan, who is a domestic violence survivor. Her ex-husband actually attacked her with a machete and left her blind in one eye. So she's been through a really hard experience that she's going to be opening up about. I think it's important during a time of quarantine when a lot of people are at home to take into account some people might not be in the best situation. And so it's important to talk about these things. And she's going to be getting into her healing process and some advice on how to escape a toxic relationship. She's very brave to be, sharing this vulnerable part of her life. So I hope that you will stay tuned to hear about her story and subscribe for more videos. All right, thank you.
The machete, which you can't really see the scar super well, but it actually cut through the muscle in my eye. So I am permanently blind. There was just so much damage to the nerve. But my eye is perpetually like turned in because he cut the muscles. You basically have like four muscles to your eye, and he cut on the side, so they're just being pulled tight in the other direction. So me and my now ex-husband, we had an open marriage. That was his idea. That seems to be, there's a lot of conflict. People get really upset about that one, but it was his idea. It just didn't work out well for him. Um, but it worked out for me. And that's kind of when I realized that there was people that were nice, because I didn't really have a lot of friends or anything like that. So there wasn't really much of a comparison. All I knew was him. So to me, that was normal. And so then I met all of these other people and I realized that was not the case. And eventually, it was over the last year of a relationship, he started getting really aggressive. And eventually, I kind of got to my breaking point. I was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. And I tried to leave one night because I was at one of my male friends' house because we had like gone to a concert and whatnot. And my ex-husband wanted me to call him. It was like at midnight or something like that. And it was like 2 minutes after midnight, he started blowing up my phone, and then started threatening me. And by the time I had called him back, I waited in until I got into my car. He was screaming at me. He asked me if I was leaving him for my friend. And at that point, I was being very petty. And I was like, yeah, I am, which wasn't super smart on my part, but I also didn't know he was capable of the amount of violence that came immediately afterwards. But he destroyed all of my technology, like my computer, drawing tablet, our TV, with the machete that we had in our room. I don't know why it was in our room, but he did weird stuff like that all the time. And he said that I needed to come home because I needed to take care of the kids, implying that he was leaving them home alone. And at the time, my kids were 10 months and 7. So I rushed home. Once I got to our driveway, he had already left, but it was literally like maybe 2 seconds after I had gotten home, he pulled in right behind me. And I still don't know exactly what happened there, but clearly he was following me at some point. And he's told me to go inside, and I was like, okay. And I sat down on the couch, and uh, he was like, so you're leaving me for your friend? And I was like, no, I'm just really hurt, and I just want to be happy, was the last thing that I could remember. And he hit my right hand with the machete. And at that point, when I realized that like my fingers were almost completely severed, and at that point it's like, we need to go to the hospital. And I was just so hyper focused on, we need to fix my hand because I'm an artist. And I was like, no, this is most important. And I had gone into shock at that point, so I wasn't thinking about that he just attacked me and all of that. I was like, we need a hospital, fix my hand. And he kept telling me to lay down on the couch, And I was not having it, like, no, we need to go to the hospital. I can't lay down right now. And he hit me 3 more times. And it was once in the side of my head, causing the damage to my eye. I'm 100% blind in my eye. And then 2 more times in the back of my head. So I have like a nice bald patch where the skin had actually died. But yeah, at that point, I had told him he needed to call 911 because he started to panic and kind of realized what he did. And because it was really graphic, a lot of people would have issues with seeing that. And I told him you need to call 911. He called 911, told them that his wife had been attacked with a machete and then hung up on them. And I told him he needed to open the door. The cops were going to come take him away. And that was that. And that's exactly what happened. And then the paramedics and police showed up. And he was actually apparently across the street from our house while I was being loaded into the ambulance. So yeah, that was how that event went down. He's still in our county jail. He has not progressed to prison yet. And I think we talked a little bit about that due to COVID, that it has really slowed things down. It's almost 2 years now since the event happened, and
Wow.
he's still in jail. And it's the only court hearings that he's had, besides being placed in jail, has been just readiness hearings. So it really hasn't gone anywhere. A plea deal hasn't even been issued. It hasn't been anything. So we're stuck at the same point we were at June of 2019.
Wow.
Yeah,
Gosh. So how are
that's a lot.
no, yeah, it's just crazy. How did like your healing process start once you went to the hospital? Like, I guess we could talk about the physical stuff first. Like how did you go from your state of being battered to eventually like becoming semi-normal again?
So I wound up being in, at first I got transferred to a hospital that's like 5-10 minutes up the road from my house.
Mhm.
But luckily I don't live like out in the boonies. Like, so I was there where they basically just kind of like stapled parts that they could and just kind of hodgepodge put me back together. And then I went in another ambulance to OHSU in Oregon, which is a much bigger and nicer hospital. They're more prepared to handle, because I didn't just have like damage to my hand. I had damage to my hand, my eye, my face, the back of my head, my shoulder. So yeah, I saw a lot of doctors, and I was in OHSU for about a week and a half. And during my stay, I had 2 surgeries, and then I got out and I had 2 more surgeries. And then last May, I had my 5th surgery for my hand. So it's still fairly recently in the recovery process. I think we're finally at the point where I don't need to have anything else done, but it took probably, I mean, my face was swollen for like 6 months just because of when you have damage done to your face and your hands, you hold swelling a lot longer. So even though like my bones and whatnot had healed, your face just really holds on to that. So you could tell stuff had happened for like 6 months after the initial attack.
Wow.
So it took a long time, and I'm never getting vision back in my eye. Basically my eyelid is paralyzed, and though doctors said that they could repair my eyelid, there really wouldn't be able to get any vision back into my eye, and if they did, it would be so minimal. On top of the muscles of my eye being damaged, they would have to repair that, my optic nerve, as well as the nerve in my forehead so my eyelid can kind of work, and they would have to do surgery on my eyelid. And it was just so much surgery that I was like, oh, we're good, just for minimal results, because my eye, it wouldn't look like my functioning eye. So to me, it wasn't worth it. But what I've told people, this is just, it's like an eye patch that I don't ever have to take off. So it kind of works out for me that way.
Right. So when do you think you started to actually, like, process what had happened to you?
Um, I was in a state of mental shock probably for the first month after everything happened. Everything was very surreal, and people were like, wow, you're doing really well. And I'm just like, it all feels like a weird dream, like that it's happened to somebody else and it didn't actually happen to me. It's like reading a news article and you can tell how graphic it is, but you don't really connect with it, like that it's personal. It's all like seeing something on TV. And so for the first month, it was very much like that. And even for a while afterwards, it felt very bipolar, where I would have days where I'm like, I'm doing amazing. And other days where I'm like, I I can't believe I'm alive. Like, and it was just it was crazy. It was really hard to describe. And I was having issues with PTSD that has gotten much better since I was initially diagnosed with having PTSD, luckily. So there was those days too where just stuff would trigger me and I was like, I am very much not okay. But I don't really have those issues anymore. It has gotten much better. And I want to say that it was probably the first year after everything happened that it was a lot more difficult, but it as of right now we're doing much better. Yeah.
Good, I'm glad to hear it. How do you think you, like, coped with that? Like, what were some things that you did that were able to get you to a place where you can, discuss what happened without feeling out of your body?
TikTok has actually been a huge healing factor for that, and just being able, and it started out because I had like 7 people following me maybe, and there wasn't really anything that was domestic violence related. Every now and then I get people asking like, what's wrong with your eye, because everyone wants to know what's wrong with my eye. But honestly, just listening to myself talk about it helped a lot. It was very awkward at first, but now it's really helped, and being able to connect with other people has helped a lot. The first time I really connected with other DV victims was actually at my work. And there was a couple of other women who, one of which she had knew exactly what happened, and then another one had questions where she kind of thought it was domestic violence related. And then come to find out she had her own situation where her husband had like held her at gunpoint, and we kind of had that connection. She was like, I've never known anyone with that attempted murder aspect of their life. And it was really sweet and sad just being able to talk to her about that. But I felt a lot better just that I'm not by myself. Like there's so many more people than people realize that have experienced domestic violence. It's just no one wants to talk about it.
Right.
So
Do you think there's any part of, being a victim of something like that that is misunderstood?
um yes. That's been more apparent on TikTok and then people like in person, like at grocery stores. But that's more of just the physical aspect of it. They don't know that it's domestic violence. People
Right.
on the internet, though, because the internet being the way that it is, people like to say that it is my fault because I put myself in that situation and it was my fault for not leaving. Yeah, I know. That's it's every time. And though it doesn't affect me personally because I don't care and I understand people are just going to say stuff like that, it really upsets other people who have experienced DV, and they may not be talking about it and they're struggling with talking about it. And then some random person on the internet says, if you did this, it's all your fault. They're a lot less likely to talk about it. And it's been really difficult hearing that stuff because I know it's upsetting people that are following me. Yeah, it. Hmm. I have a lot to say just about that. The whole victim shaming aspect of it bugs me a lot.
Definitely. Do you think, um, do you ever feel guilty at all? Like, do you ever carry any of that with you?
I do a lot less now, but that was one of my biggest issues when I had just gotten out of the hospital, where I'm like, oh my God, he's going to spend so much time in prison because of me. When realistically, I didn't attack myself. That was a choice he made. And I acknowledge that now, but there's still some days where I feel bad that he doesn't get to be a part of his kids' lives and all of that. But yeah, now it's a lot more like I didn't do that. Like, I acknowledge I've done a lot of looking inward on myself and realizing that not only was it his fault, there was definitely stuff I could have done to mitigate the situation. That doesn't change the fact that what he did was horrific. uh yeah, the I don't remember where I was going with that, but yeah, early on I felt really, really guilty. That was my biggest struggle. Like, I would cry and be like, I'm never going to talk to him again because he's in prison. Realistically, he's a narcissist and I need to not be in contact with that at all. But that's kind of how deep the damage was. But that's also on knowing, being in a narcissistic relationship for like 15 years, it'll do that to you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Do you ever feel like, I think one thing that can be tough with situations like this is that some people go through it and they're, what they're left with, because of their abuse isn't always extremely physical or visible. But in
Yeah.
your situation, you have to look in the mirror and be reminded of it like every day. How do
Yeah.
you overcome that?
Uh, it was more natural for me just because I don't really care that much how people have viewed me before. It was a lot more embarrassing when I was still healing. But
Mhm.
after all the swelling and stuff went down, it was kind of like, well, there's nothing I can do about it now. It made me more angry than anything because I will never get my eye back. I will never have full function of my hand. And so that's something that I do still deal with, is being kind of resentful towards him. That's something that I tell people. I'm like, if only the courts could, like, remove one of his eyes, then I feel like that would be more fair. But, unfortunately, that's not part of the court system. That's not going to happen. But yeah,
Yeah, I can understand that. I think, um, there's a lot of anger that I'm sure comes along with it. How do you hope that, when you're being so vulnerable and coming forward and sharing like your story online and things like that, what do you hope people will take away from that?
that it's not their fault. Just, and that's one of the biggest things that I dealt with in the beginning, was feeling like it was all my fault, when realistically that is not the case in basically all DV situations. Whether or not they felt like they needed to stay, them being abused emotionally, physically, what have you, it, like, that they don't deserve that. And also to let people know, maybe them seeing that I'm smiling and, like, I look happy in my videos, that is a possibility. Like, you can be abused and you still deserve happiness. You will get there at some point. It takes so much effort. Like, it is a long road, and a lot of times a lot longer than it was for me. And I'm still working on it. Just that they, I don't know, hope, I guess, that, and I get messages from girls all the time saying, like, this is my situation. Is this toxic? Is this healthy? And in most cases it's like, no, it's not. I'm not a therapist, but I can tell you that's not love. Like, if he belittles you and puts you down, you don't deserve that. Go find yourself, find someone that actually loves you for you and isn't just putting you down for existing. And so that was the whole point of me making videos, was just to kind of support other DV victims and either getting them out of situations or connecting like with the ladies at my work, and that you're not alone, because it's so easy to feel alone in that situation because most DV victims don't tell anyone about it even after it happened. They just keep it quiet. And like, that was just, a really dark chapter in my life. It's like, but it's okay to talk about it. And it helps to talk about it because there's so much more support available for those victims than they realize.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's unfortunate when you talk about how the coronavirus and the quarantines and stuff have really slowed down
Yeah.
you finally getting through this. It's slowing that down. And I think about one thing that I've thought about is how a lot of women going through that right now may feel like they don't know how to get out of it, or they're both home a lot more than they would have been normally. So
Yeah.
I've seen, at least in reports, um, in certain areas, there's definitely been like more risk of domestic violence situations now that everybody's like at home. So, what would your advice be to people who might be in the situation, but it's hard for them to escape, or their fear that they won't be able to?
The domestic violence hotline, I push people towards that a lot. It has so many great resources that a lot of people don't realize exist. From If you go on your computer or phone, they actually have, I want to say it's at the top of the website, that tells you how to clear your search history so that if
Mhm.
you're in an abusive relationship, that they can't track that you were on that website. And so it's amazing. It is such a good resource, especially if they feel like they don't have anyone to talk to. At least there's that they can see, as well as I believe it's like housing and whatnot for DV victims, like places to go, shelters and whatnot. But yeah, it's so upsetting thinking about with the COVID thing and that people can't get away. Like, just, and especially you think of a couple being in a 1-bedroom apartment and there's literally like no space and
Yeah.
just being stuck together that entire time.
Mhm.
Um, Talking to family, I know a lot of people don't have family that they can go to, but anyone, friends, family, strangers on the internet, like just being able to talk to people. And I think that's where I get so many people messaging me, is because it is someone to talk to. And
Right.
I'm so receptive to it that people reach out. But there are so many great resources online just for a starting point to figure out where you need to go, like financial planning,
Mhm.
so that you can separate yourself financially from that abuser. Yeah, so the domestic violence hotline is definitely a really, really good resource for DV victims.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I think I'm really proud of you for, I'm just proud of you for being here and being like
Thank you.
alive. And I think I think a lot of people don't realize, like, when you suffer through something like that, the fact that people can exist, even just exist after that, is
Yes.
like really incredible. So I hope that you know that and you remember that. And I'm really glad that
Thank you.
you're speaking about it. I think you're helping so many people. So thank you so much for sharing. And
Yeah.
I think only good can come from helping people that are going through this. So I know that it probably feels really hard sometimes to talk about it, and it's hard to hear. But at the end of the day, helping raise awareness and helping people get, the care that they need is really important. So I
Yeah.
admire you for doing that.
Thank you. I enjoy talking about it. That sounds really weird, but because it's not like a fun topic
Right.
to talk about, but being able again to connect with people and that it how I put it, even when I was in the hospital, because I actually, what was it? I was documenting everything from the very beginning when I was admitted to the hospital. So I have pictures, and so my logic was I could document my progress and it
Mhm.
would make me feel like I was getting somewhere, at least physically. And you can see like the point where I was like smiling more and I looked more confident, like how things changed psychologically as well as physically. It's crazy. But I had post stuff on Facebook. It was literally like within a couple days of me getting out of the hospital, posting something about this is what domestic violence looks like. If you're in this kind of situation, this could happen to you. You don't know. I wasn't anticipating, attempted murder. So, like, it can happen and it can go so 0 to 100 with people like that. So, I I feel like if I can help other people with my story, then everything I went through was worth it.
Well, thank you so much.
And yeah,
Really enjoyed hearing from you, and you can reach out anytime if you ever have anything that you want to talk about, or if you need anything, feel free
yeah,
to it's an open door. So
yeah. Thank you so much. It was good talking to you.
you too. Thank you so much. All right.